Okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to take down the frame of a 1911. I've already removed the top end, which you would do when you're cleaning, and if you haven't seen that, you can look at my video on this E-Series gun. This is the Smith Wesson E-Series. I've also removed the two grip panel screws here, which you're going to have to do on the left side of the pistol to get your pins out. This is how it's going to look when you take your slide off. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to take out the safety lever. What you do is you just move it up to the safe position kind of in between, and you give it a wiggle and you pull on it simultaneously, and make sure your plunger tube doesn't shoot out its plunger and spring, so you got to just move it slowly and it'll slide right out of there like that. Okay, no big deal. Okay, then you're going to want to let your hammer down. Don't let it drop on the spring pressure, because what will happen is you'll bend this area up here and you'll have to dress it with a file. You don't want to do that. Okay, so that's how the safety comes out, and you can remove your plunger and plunger spring. Some guns will shoot these out, so be real careful when you take that apart. Okay, then we're going to remove this pin here. The pins go from the left side to the right side. There's a dimple on this to hold a punch or whatever you're going to push it out with. And what I have excuse me, is a design tool for the 1911. It works really good for that. It makes it easier. And what you're going to do is you're just going to catch it here and you're going to push it down. So if you have wood grips, make sure you're working on something padded so you don't damage your table or anything. Some come out easier than others, but you just put that on there, give it a push. You can see it's going to push that pin out, and you can just finish it. There's what it looks like. Okay. One thing about the pin, it has a groove in the middle, okay, which interfaces with the mainspring housing. Okay, once you've got that out, you can slide your mainspring housing down and it'll slide right out. And you just saw my grip safety fall into my hand. That's going to come right out. Okay, there's your grip safety. Okay, now here's the two pins, the hammer pin and the sear pin. Now they come out from the right side to the left side, okay? They're going to go in from the left to the right, but they're going to come out the other way because they have a shoulder. You don't need a punch or a hammer or anything. They'll move really easy. What I like to do is use like a little eyeglass screwdriver like this and just give them a little push. See, that pin moves right out. You can see it moving out there. You can grab it with your finger. There it is there. If I can get it on camera for you, it's kind of hard to do here. Then your hammer and your strut's going to come out, and it's going to look just like that. Okay. Now you had to loosen the grip screws because the sear spring, or the sear pin, I'm sorry, is held by the grip pan a little bit. Okay, but while I'm on sear springs, the sear spring fits right in there. It's going to lift out. Now that you've got the back off, you can see it there. It's got a tang there on the end, which fits in this slot down here, so when you put it back together, you're going to want to catch that. Okay, you can look and see how your, if I can get this in the camera, it's kind of hard to tell, your sear and your disconnector and how they fit on the back of the trigger. You're going to want to look at that so you can put them back together if you've never done it before. Okay, so you know how to put it back. Once again, I take the little screwdriver and I just give that pin just a little push, and you can see it's just popped out there. Grab it with your fingers, comes out like that, piece of cake, and then you can just give a little shake and you'll have your disconnector, which looks like this. This is the part the trigger pushes on. It's good to know when you're putting it back together. And then your sear, which will connect with your hammer. Okay, if you can see that. Okay. Now, the trigger is retained by the magazine release. Okay. Now, most of these will have a screw head or maybe a hex head. Okay. It doesn't have any threads on it. Don't bear down on it. Don't get burly with it. You're going to break it or damage something. So what I use is another little kind of jeweler's screwdriver so I don't over torque it. And you put that in the slot and you partially depress on the other side. You partially depress like you're dropping a mag. And when you move it up, you gently back off on the screw to the left and it'll go into a groove in the frame. And it'll just turn easily. Don't bear down on it. If it's not going to move, you don't have it lined up. Okay. And then there's what your mag catch looks like. Now if you buy a mag catch, it does not include this plunger and spring which are inside of it, and I'll show you that right now. Okay, there's your spring and your little plunger. Okay, there it is there. You don't get that when you just buy this. So if you're buying a new one, reuse the old one or buy new parts, of course. I'm going to put this back together so I don't lose it. Okay. Now we can let the trigger, you can see the trigger bow there, I hoped, and it'll slide right out, and there's the trigger. Now this is a Harrison design trigger, does not work in the E series. I just found that out. It's too long, it doesn't have enough take-up travel or pre-travel, whatever you want to call it. And there's how you take your pistol apart. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to take the mainspring housing apart. This really takes a vise or 3 hands, so bear with me on this. Let me move this out of the way. What you do is get your little jeweler thing again. There's a pin. You can see it on the back side, or here, and you can see it on the front side here. You're going to push it from the front back. It's like the other pins, it has a shoulder. You have to depress the plunger. So be real careful when you do this. This is not the way I would do it. I would use my vise, but I want to show you. So you depress that spring and then just push that pin, and you can see it slipped on me, which I knew it would. I'm going to show you this anyway. I've come this far. There we go. There's the pin. And then what you're going to have inside is your mainspring, okay, and your cap there, and then down in the bottom of it you're going to have the bottom. I don't know what do you can call that, the plunger, I guess. But you can see where it's triangular, and that fits into the groove on that mainspring pin that I showed you. That's what holds that in there. Okay. I'm going to put this back together off. I'm going to turn the camera off, put this back together, and then we'll put it back together. I'm going to start with the trigger. It will just slide into the frame. You can see the grooves there, I think, I hope, where it will slide in, and that will just drop in there. That will just drop in there. There we go, like that. Then we're going to go ahead and put the magazine release back in. Basically do it the opposite way that we did before. Let it drop in, hold the back side with your finger. Get your little screwdriver, or Allen wrench as the case may be, and you're going to depress it again against spring pressure. And you're going to turn that. There we go. Piece of cake. Okay. And then we're going to line up our disconnector and our sear. Which is going to look like, get this sucker set up here. It's going to look like this. Okay. It curves towards you. The trigger side's there. This is a tricky part. See if I can do it on camera. And you're just going to lay that in there and then gently slide it up through the hole the disconnector goes through, which I don't know if I showed you. I'm going to have to jiggle the trigger a little bit here. There we go. Okay, then what I do is I turn it on its side a little bit, and I get my real little jeweler screwdriver, and I look down into that hole, and I move my sear over. Okay, then I take the sear pin, drop that in there. Okay, and there we are. You can see that again, we're lined up in there. Okay, then we're going to take our sear spring, which is going to lay in there. Remember, it's got that slot right there that it fits in. I'm going to slide in my mainspring housing just to hold that a little bit, just so that stuff doesn't fall out of there. I'm going to put my plunger spring back in the plunger tube. Okay, mine will stay in there. You may want to leave that if yours falls out. We're going to get the hammer and the hammer strut in there. It's pretty easy. That's going to fit in here. Come on, baby. What's holding me up here? There we go. You see that? Am I on film? Hammer spring in there. Now the hammer strut fits into the top of that mainspring housing that I showed you earlier, and it's going to be kind of like that. Okay. You want to take it off half cock. Okay. We want to get our grip safety. It's going to fit in there. Thusly. Okay. Now you're going to want to cock it, so you don't want to put your mainspring in yet. You just want to use that to hold stuff together. So you want to cock the hammer. We're going to run the safety in. Okay. Same way we did before, except we're going to have to push that plunger out of the way. So I use my real tiny little jeweler thing there. And I just kind of rock it back and forth, and I push that plunger forward. Make sure if you have a blued frame you don't scratch it. Okay. And there's our safety installed. Now we simply make sure our hammer is down, relieve some pressure here, and make sure we're lined up with the mainspring housing. Okay, there we go. And then, like I say, we're going to put that mainspring pin in from the left to the right. And what I do is I just give it a tap with the back of my tool or the back of a screwdriver. You can do that. And it'll pop right in there. And there you have it. Back together. Okay, I ran the grip screws in there off camera. Go ahead and cock the hammer back. Make sure it's working. Remember, don't drop the hammer on the frame. This is where your disconnector that I showed you earlier, that's that hole you got to line up when you push it all in there. Okay, but everything seems to be functioning. Okay. Get our slide assembly, spring assembly. And then you've seen this on my other video. There we go. Hammer resets, hammer falls. Safeties work. Good to go. And I hope that helps you guys out. Thanks. Bye.